Hello everyone, my name is Suzanne Brown and welcome to this Gallery Teachers Masterclass. Today we are talking about switching our mindset from teaching juniors to teaching adult learners of English. And the name of our masterclass today is Any Given Day, because that could happen to us teachers on any given day. So my name is Suzanne, as I said, and I am the Managing Director of Bliss Summer Schools, so Brownlee Language International Summer Schools. And what we do is we teach English to juniors. For the rest of the year, I teach adults. So what I'd like to do today is to share some information, share some background about switching our mindset as teachers and how we can do that and how we can get it right every time. So our agenda for today is that we're going to look at, first of all, who do we teach? How do we teach them? We're going to look at the effects of having the wrong mindset in any given classroom. How to create and maintain the right mindset. And I've got a tool up my sleeve for you for that one. And using our tools to get it right every single time, because that's very important. That's very important for our learners, and it's very important for us as teachers as well. So teaching juniors, have a think and pop it in the chat. What does it look like when we're teaching juniors? The first thing we have to think about with junior learners is that they do have a natural curiosity to learn. They're interested in things. They want to learn more. They always have questions. They're intrinsically motivated, so that motivation comes from within them. They respond to lots of different types of stimulus. They get involved in lots of different types of activity. They respond to positive reinforcement and encouragement. And they are very much interactive learners. They're used to learning. They're used to being in that classroom environment. And so they have what's called a growth mindset. They are always learning something new, whether they're watching TV or they're looking out the window or they're in the classroom or something. Teaching juniors is a continuous cycle. They learn through exploring things. They learn through asking different types of questions. They ask their peers, they ask their teachers, they ask their parents and caregivers. So there's a lot of exploration for junior learners, as well as total physical response. So total physical response is when they are getting fully involved in they're connecting motion with vocabulary or whatever they're connecting with, but they're connecting it with motion. And then we also have emotional learning from juniors as well. So if we think about this, is that the same that we have when we're teaching adults? In my experience, it's not. Teaching adults is different. So what does it look like when we are teaching adults? Well, teaching adults, first of all, they are motivated by lots of different reasons. So while children and juniors are quite often, they're motivated by curiosity and it's intrinsic. For adults, it can be extrinsic as well, because if we're teaching adults, they could want to learn English because they want to get a new job, or they want to get a promotion, or they want to move abroad, or they want to do something along those lines. But equally, they could be learning it because they have to learn it. They're being asked to learn it. And that motivation is completely different for those two different adults there. Adults themselves are independent learners, so adults are more likely to explore in a different way than children. So children will ask questions, and adults, on the other hand, will do research and they will try and solve problems. Adults are also experienced individuals, so they come into the learning environment with lots of different attributes, and that's a great thing because they can bring that experience into the classroom, but it can also mean that they could have some barriers to learning as well. Adults are active learners. They are usually they have, for one reason or another, they know they have a choice, and the choice is to go to their class and to get involved with that. Now, either that is true whether they're extrinsically or intrinsically motivated. What's important is that they apply themselves. So it's not passive learning, it's cognitive learning. So they are applying themselves, they are doing exercises, they're interacting, perhaps even doing role play, anything along those lines. But adults are active learners. As I said earlier on, and we're going to go on to have a look at these learning barriers. Adults do have learning barriers that are different to those of our younger learners. The learning barriers that adults have usually come from experience, or they come from past situations. But again, as I said, we're going to go on to look at that. And what's really important with adults is that what we have to do is we have to nurture an adult-to-adult interaction. And in the classroom, this is our key tool. Adult-to-adult interactions ensure that we get our mindset right every single time. Because if we have the wrong mindset and we go in to teach adults the way that we would teach children, then what we're going to do is we're going to add to those learning barriers. We are not going to create independent learners. We're not going to value the experience that our adults are coming into the classroom with. So what we have to do is as a teacher, we have to understand what is the best way to switch our mindset from teaching juniors to teaching adults. So this is what we are going on to look at. So as we said, our adults can bring barriers to the classroom. Now, from a teacher's point of view, do we always know what those barriers are? Well, no, we don't. Do our students, our adult students, do they always know what the barriers are? Well, no, they don't either. So in the chat, if you can add in some barriers to learning that you might think that adults could have. So there are 4 main categories of barriers to learning that adults can bring to the classroom. The first one is social and cultural barriers. The second one is practical and personal barriers. Then we have emotional barriers. And lastly, we have workplace barriers. So these barriers themselves can be broken down, or they can be built up if we as the teacher go in with the wrong mindset. So let's have a look at some examples. Social and cultural barriers could be, for example, L1. Or it could be, for example, there's people in the class, it's a mixed L1 class. Practical and personal barriers could be that somebody has, we're asking to do, for example, a worksheet, and they broke their wrist playing football last night, for example. That could be a practical or a personal barrier. An emotional barrier could be if somebody is suffering from stress, or they're suffering from something that is taking the focus away from their learning. And a workplace barrier could be, this could go back to the extrinsic motivation. And the workplace barriers could be that the boss, for example, is asking them to learn English. And that's creating a barrier because it's not a free choice. It's not, they're not there because they desperately want to improve their language themselves. So all of these barriers, and there's lots more to discover, as I said, put them in the chat. Any other barriers that you think that your adults might have, all of these barriers come into the classroom with our adult learners. Now, we as teachers, we've got 2 choices. We can accept these barriers and try to break them down, or we can basically add to them by having the wrong mindset. So what we of course want to do is not that. What we want to do is have the correct mindset to approach these barriers and to make it part of the learning experience. So what we have to do is we have to think, first of all, about our mindset when we're doing that. So mindset, what is your mindset? Your mindset is really about how you think and how you perceive a situation. So I've said the word mindset an awful lot. Does anybody want to add into the chat a definition of what mindset might be? Now, I've been talking about your mindset when you teach juniors and flipping that mindset to teaching adults. So the first question I have is, what is our mindset when we're teaching juniors? That's the first question we have to think about. And after that, we also have to think, well, what then is our mindset when we're teaching adults? So those are the first two questions we have to discuss. Our mindset, certainly from my point of view as a teacher, when I am teaching juniors, I'm thinking creatively. I am thinking about colours, about sounds. I'm often thinking about smells. I'm thinking about total physical response. I am thinking about making it as interactive and as compelling and as attention grabbing as possible. There probably will be a lot of noise in one of my junior classes, but the sort of noise that is a good buzz, a good vibe of learning. What is our mindset when we're teaching adults? Well, again, from my point of view, when I'm teaching adults, I want to try to be an adult talking to an adult. Now, that's not how I approach teaching juniors. When I'm teaching juniors, I am a teacher teaching a junior learner. But with an adult, I want to be an adult teaching an adult. So how do I do that? Well, we're going to get there. So what impact does a junior mindset have on an adult classroom? Again, any thoughts that you have, please do add them to the chat, because that would be great. But what impact does it have if we went in, if we had a group of, say, business learners, and I went in and I've got a board game and I'm jumping around and I'm having a great time and it's wonderful? What impact is that going to have on an adult classroom? Well, again, in my experience, I have found that does create barriers, because people don't want to, quite often people don't want to get involved in that type of game, because games are infantile, games are for children, games aren't useful. That is quite often the perception that adults can have in the classroom. So if I go into my classroom, my adult classroom, with a junior mindset, then I can create more barriers. I can add to the barriers. And quite often these might be social and cultural barriers, because I'm misreading my audience, basically, because I'm going in with the wrong mindset. So what does it mean then if we have the wrong mindset? What impact does that have on us, and then as the class as a whole? Now, the example that I gave you was going into a business English class and wanting to play a board game. Now, for some people, that might be okay. And also for some teachers, that might be okay. That's obviously just an example. However, imagine it's not okay. Imagine your adult learners don't want to do that. Then what is the impact? Well, the impact that would have on the teacher is a lack of confidence. That would be that the teacher themselves would feel as if that they hadn't prepared. They wouldn't feel like they had the connection. They wouldn't feel they had the rapport with their group. And as a class as a whole, it could lead to losing credibility from the class to the teacher. And it could also just become a frustrating environment for everyone, because our adult learners, as we've already seen, they are independent learners, and they want to be able to use the learning that they're getting in the classroom. And if they don't have that appropriate learning, then they're going to feel as if they have gained nothing. They've just wasted time. Adults don't have time to waste. So how can we get it right every single time? Well, this is an important question, isn't it? Again, if you've got any thoughts on that, how can we get it right every single time, then do pop it in the chat. I'm going to share with you a tool that works for me. It's called Transactional Analysis. Now, transactional analysis is a very interesting way of looking at any type of relationship that you have in your life. So therefore, the relationship between teacher and student works perfectly. Now, transactional analysis was created by a man called Eric Byrne, and the way that I use it in the classroom to ensure that I always get my adult mindset on before I go into an adult class is like this. So first of all, I'd like to explain transactional analysis out to you. The first thing you can see there is we have PAC twice, PAC and PAC, so pack and pack. Now, what does that stand for? I'm sure you can guess by now what the A stands for. But the P stands for parent, the A stands for adult, and the C stands for child. So in any transaction or conversation, because it's the same thing, or any type of communication that you have in life, in the classroom, anywhere, you can take on the role of one of these three people: the parent, the adult, or the child. Okay. And the reason that there's two columns, the parent, adult, child, and parent, adult, child, is because we have the positive and we have the negative. Okay. Again, any of us at any point, we're all capable of taking on the role of the positive or negative parent, adult, child. So how does it work? So the first thing we have to do is we have to think about each of these roles and what they are. So to define them, I like to think of a stereotypical parent, a stereotypical adult, and a stereotypical child, in the positive and in the negative. So let's start with parents. So a positive parent. What's a positive parent look like? A positive parent is a caregiver, is a nurturer, is somebody who encourages, who gives lots of positive reinforcement, who is very approachable, who's very available, somebody who is dependable, reliable, somebody who is always there supporting and encouraging. If we then think about the negative version of the parent, a negative parent would be somebody who withholds praise, perhaps, or somebody who basically is the opposite of all the things we just said, isn't a caregiver, doesn't nurture, somebody who withholds praise, who doesn't want to interact. Okay, so a parent who isn't giving that support that the positive parent would give. Okay, if we jump down to the bottom and look at our child, our child personas, we've got the positive and we've got the negative child. So the positive child, what does that positive child look like? A positive child is curious, is interactive, asks questions, listens, is a good listener. A positive child is somebody who wants to get involved in new things and thinking about new ideas. And again, it's very usually quite a bouncy person and creative. The negative to that could be a child who isn't involved, who is perhaps takes tantrums, who is difficult to manage, perhaps. Somebody who doesn't want to get involved, who isn't doesn't want to be included in things. So somebody who sort of takes a step back, a bit standoffish. And that's what a negative child would look like. Then if we go to our middle row, we've got our adult to adult. So here again, like parent and child, we have to have the positive and negative. So for example, a positive adult is somebody who is independent, who is professional, who's a good listener, a good communicator, assertive, somebody who is able to put their own ideas across, somebody who likes to listen to the opinions and thoughts of other people, who is good at critical thinking, for example. And the negative adult is somebody who, similar again to the negative parent, somebody who withholds interaction, who stops a smooth communication, somebody perhaps who interrupts, or somebody who doesn't want a kind of learning environment around. So how does this work for us as teachers? Well, as I said, any transaction or interaction or communication or conversation or anything, whatever you want to call it, we are capable of being either a parent, an adult, or a child in that communication. So I'm going to give you an example. An example would be that I have a lovely puppy dog who's not a puppy anymore. He's nearly 4. But I have a lovely puppy dog. And quite often I will act as a parent, as a caregiver to my dog. And I will talk, I'll talk almost in sort of baby talk to him. And the other day I was training him and I said, come on then, Ernie, come on, give me a paw. And we're playing and I'm giving him treats and what have you. And my husband came in and he said, oh, you can't give the dog more treats. And I immediately went from being a parent to being a child. I was like, but it's fine. I can give them treats. It's fine. And I was a little bit huffy. It was a little bit, I was a little bit negative about that, shall we say. So that shows us how in any conversation we can be a parent, we can be an adult, or we can be a child. Okay, we can do all of us, and it doesn't matter our age, and it doesn't matter our role in life. It doesn't matter if you're an actual parent or that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So how does that help us as teachers? Well, what it means is one of the most important things that we have to do to make sure we have the mindset for our adults is foster an adult to adult mindset in the classroom. Okay. Forget about the negative adult for now. Let's look at the positive to positive adult. That's what we want. So let's recap. If we are talking to our students and we treat them as if they are a positive adult, so all the things we said about positive adult were that they were professional, that they were interactive, they were assertive, they wanted to ask questions, they wanted to learn and to grow. These are all the things that we said about an adult. So if we treat our students like that, and we're aware of transactional analysis, and we understand that while we're teaching juniors, we can be a parent and we can also be a child in those classrooms, and that's perfectly acceptable. For the adults, we want a positive adult to positive adult interaction every single time. And once we're aware of transactional analysis, what we can do is we can say, okay, I have been the parent today with my junior learners. I have also been a child today with my junior learners, laughing and joking and asking questions myself. I have been these two people, and that's okay because that's appropriate. However, now I have an adult class. I know I have to switch to being the positive adult. And if you treat your students like a positive adult, you will see that they will mirror that back to you. So to recap, transactional analysis is a tool that we can use as teachers for our students, because when we are teaching juniors, we can be a parent, we can be caregivers, we can be encouraging, we can give positive reinforcement, we can give all of those great things that we said about the positive parent. We can also be the positive child as well. We can be silly, we can be frivolous, we can be creative, we can ask lots of questions and be curious ourselves, and we can have that interaction with our juniors in the junior mindset. But when it comes to adults, we have to make that change. Once we're aware of transactional analysis, it's easy to do because we say, okay, I've been the child or I have been the parent today. That's okay. Now I'm going to move into the middle, move into the center, and I'm going to be the positive adult. So I'm going to be assertive. I am going to be interactive. I am going to be professional. I am going to treat my students like that, and they will respond to me. At that point, what we can say and what we can guarantee is that our students they're going to reflect our behavior back to us, and they themselves will become the positive adult. Okay, so our adult interactions, why do we want them? Why are they important? Well, the first thing we have to think is our adult interactions create trust. They also build confidence, not only in us as teachers, because our adults feel respected and feel as if they're being guided by their teacher. So it builds confidence in the learning. Also gives increased performance and a lot of more production of the language. More risks are taken because adults feel safe, because there is nobody there who's going to let them fall. There is always a safety net because it's an adult to adult interaction. We're all the same. We're on an equal footing. There also becomes a culture of pride. People want to be involved in the class. People want to be part of what is happening because we're building a team here. We're building a team. We're adult to adults. We're not teacher and student. We're building a team. And that's why people want to be involved, and they have that culture of pride because they're proud of what they're doing and they're proud to be part of that team full of positive adults. Also means that there's not going to be conflict, especially between you and your learners. There's not going to be the frustration we spoke about before. There's going to be a respectful environment, and it's going to be very supportive. And each other, our peers and our team members in the class, they're also going to be able to support each other. We're also going to be able to have an open and very dynamic way of communication. So we will be able to say, flag things up if we need to, and we'll be able to guide and we'll be able to support in an honest and authentic way. So in conclusion, if we are aware that transactional analysis is a tool that can help us every single time flip from being a parent or a child and move us to being that adult and ensure that we have adult-to-adult interaction every single time, if we use transactional analysis in this way, we will see that we can foster this mindset with our adult learners, and we will see them respond, we will see them grow, and you will see those barriers that we spoke about before, we will see them disappear, and we will make sure that our students get the most out of the learning environment as they possibly can. And the good thing is with transactional analysis is that we can use it inside and outside the classroom. So when we are in any conversation or any interaction in our life, we can think, okay, who am I right now? The parent, the adult, or the child? And when we are in that classroom with our adult learners, we always want to be the positive adult. And when we are, our students will also be positive adults. Please do go on to have a look at the Gallery Teachers Workshop Library. There is so many resources there for you. Please do get involved. Click on the link. There's lots and lots of different workshops from lots and lots of different English teachers who are absolutely great at what they do, and we would love you to jump in and download everything that is of interest and use to you. Well, juniors and adults need a different approach to their classroom time for many reasons. But one of the main reasons is the type of learners that juniors are and the type of learners that adults are. What we can see is that through using our tools, we can ensure that our juniors have lessons that are creative, are full of movement, and adults have a more professional and assertive approach. Well, if we as teachers get the mindset wrong, it can affect us in many different ways. We can lose confidence, we can feel that we're unprepared, we can feel like we are creating barriers, we can feel that we are frustrating our students, and we ourselves will become frustrated with that because that's not what we want to do. So in order to make sure we get the right mindset, what we have to do is use the tools from this masterclass.